Hi, welcome back and welcome to Module 3 of the Focus Factor. How's your brand new spanking routine going? I bet that you're already feeling more focused. In fact, if you haven't been doing it, let me remind you that a huge part of this process is going through it with your cohorts. So make sure that you're adding comments, sharing your experiences, and chiming in to help others. Well, as good as you may be feeling about your brand new routine and how it's already helping you to focus, I've got some great news for you. We're just getting started. In fact, what we're covering here in Module 3 is what I like to call focus fuel. Now, I know that you're probably thinking, given how powerful routine is, this focus fuel must be super powerful and dynamic to rev up the engine of focus, right? Well, it is, but it's also more than that. And I can't wait to share it with you.
It's true. The thing that fuels our focus needs to be a powerful elixir. But the most important thing to realize is if you only take one thing out of this whole module is that this super powerful focus fuel is powerful because it's all about slowing down, doing less, and being even more sensitized to your relationship with your mind.
Yeah, I know. Let me say that again. It's powerful because it's slow, sensitive, soft, and emotional. Whoa, right? Okay, I'll stop with all the scary words now. So, what is our focus fuel? Come on, I know that you know the answer. It was in the title of the module, for crying out loud. Well, you can't blame a girl for wanting a little bit of a dramatic entrance, now can you? Okay, fine. Our super powerful focus fuel is mindfulness. I know that you and all your friends and family and, well, everyone has heard the term mindfulness. But even so, I'm willing to bet that you have some questions and maybe even some quibbles about what exactly mindfulness has to do with focus, how it could possibly be scientifically effective, and why I claim that it's not so woo-woo. That's all cool, and I'm going to try to address all of it. I chose to title this section Focus Fuel because, in truth, this isn't just about mindfulness. What I'm really suggesting is that to fuel your focus, you need to apply a set of perspectives and practices that are all in the broad category of mindfulness, but which includes things beyond what all of those magazines and websites generally refer to as mindfulness.
So the version I'm going to share with you in this module includes the general idea of mindfulness, but also meditation, breath practices, and even how we can use frequencies to impact our brain and body. I call it focus fuel because when exercised regularly and applied liberally and appropriately, it has the power to genuinely transform our lives, propelling it forward and serving as the engine of our purpose.
But before we move any further, I need to ask you to do something. I know this stuff is everywhere these days, but can you try to let go of whatever preconceived notions you may have about mindfulness, meditation, breath work, and sound therapy so that you can understand it with fresh eyes, ears, and neurons, all in relation to your purpose? I know that you're watching this on your phone, or maybe your laptop, or whatever, but can you give me a verbal yes? Seriously, go ahead. I'll wait. Okay, great. Thanks. That felt good to say it out loud, right? I promise that it will make a huge difference. So what is mindfulness really then? As I alluded to a minute ago, mindfulness does not equal meditation, despite a popular opinion. You can mindfully meditate, but it's so much more dynamic than some cushiony oming. Mindfulness is the way we approach any given idea, task, sensation, or activity with our full and entire attention and investment, without judgment or a need to change or fix in real time. So you see, mindfulness is really a way of experiencing and activating throughout our life.
It can include things like meditation and breath work, which we'll talk about later, since they can be particularly sensitizing and have a dynamic effect on us, but we can actually exercise mindfulness at any time. Yes, that means that you can be mindful at work, when you're brushing your teeth, and even when your spouse or kids are driving you ballistic.
So why does mindfulness matter? Well, to begin with, and having nothing to do with focus, it can help better equip you to find and experience bliss amid a house full of screaming kids, and it can just enrich the overall quality of your life. But as it relates to focus, the more broadly cognizant we are of subtleties, the more likely we are to appreciate them rather than just passing them over. In that same vein, a mindfulness practice sensitizes us. This is so important because we live in a world where almost everything that is around us and that we consume has the opposite effect. It desensitizes us.
As we've already covered a couple of times, our electronics, our fast-paced world, and even the food, alcohol, and caffeine that we consume create a stimulation within us and reduces our sensitization.
Now, I'm not saying that a cup of Java or using your iPhone is bad, but having a faithful practice allows us some sensitivity when choosing to consume or in the midst of consuming a desensitizing thing. It gives us the power to intelligently and without being impulsively driven, enjoy our favorite things. You know what I mean. Unconsciously binging on delicious food, your favorite show, or being on your device can all lead to feelings of guilt after the indulgence, inviting them to negatively have an effect on us in the long term. But mindfulness is more powerful still, and we're really just beginning to scratch the surface.
It's quite an understatement to say that the idea of mindfulness has taken many different shapes over the past several decades. Over the past 30 years, we've begun to understand its effect on our psychological health, thanks to Jon Kabat-Zinn, who birthed the concept of mindfulness-based stress reduction. He and many others have shifted the way that we understand the practice, allowing it to be more accessible and affecting our relationship to our psychology and even our physiology.
And now this practice is more important than ever. Its power and value to us now extends far and wide beyond merely relieving stress. Mindfulness is not about living in this total state of subhuman peacefulness all the time. Rather, it's about becoming more sensitized and validating the cacophony of emotions, thoughts, and sensations we experience every day while choosing not to judge, change, or react to them. It's about breathing life into the practice and integrating it into our day-to-day tasks and away from being a trite, spiritual bypassy woo-woo thing. It's about allowing mindfulness to serve us at its full potential. Cultivating the ability to experience and drink deeply into a situation or sensation without judging it, it requires us to increase our emotional sensitivity and maturity. This is a powerful skill for anyone of any profession, intelligence level, or background, young or old. The willingness to invite in sensitization and permit its effects should be a part of everyone's routine.
After all, as I mentioned earlier, mindfulness lays the groundwork for all that follows. And if you remember the lesson on the MAPS philosophy, this means that mindfulness is a part of the seeds and roots of our activations, the dynamic structure of the trunk of our purpose, and the gracefulness of our ability to bear fruit and surrender those fruits when the time comes.
So, how does this fruit we bear serve us on a purpose level? Well, when we practice mindfulness, we are basically training our brain like we would train a muscle. You know, like exercise. And as you exercise with consistency, you become, stronger and more able and even more attractive, dare I say. Our mind needs that exercise to function optimally. When we practice mindfulness and draw our mind back from a stimulant or distraction and to the task, conversation, or emotion at hand, we are doing a rep, if that makes sense. It's a bit of an oversimplification, but I'll go much deeper in the next lesson as we dive into this brain training phenomenon. So how do you do mindfulness and integrate it into your life? Well, I'm going to talk about a few possible ways to practice mindfulness intentionally and in isolation. Now, I say isolation because you cannot build these practices I'm about to describe in a week or even 6 of them. It takes at least 66 days for a habit to be formed, and that means that it will ultimately be up to you to adopt these practices and make them stick beyond this program. That said, the practices and concepts that I'm about to share with you are a great starting ground to whet your palate and help you understand how, in isolated situations, you can experience the effectiveness of a mindfulness practice. Plus, you'll get a little dopamine hit for the win and hopefully be inclined to rinse, repeat, and roll this out through a multitude of facets in your life.
Over time, as you continue these isolated exercises, you will see how you want or maybe even become innately inclined to integrate principles of mindfulness into your daily activities, even including things like cooking, taking baths, brushing your teeth, or making your bed.
You may even find yourself shocked to be reveling in the extraordinary pleasure of simple activities when you approach them as mini mindfulness practices. And you might even notice the rep action as you draw your mind back to the task at hand. And just like with strength training, you may even notice that certain parts of this become easier, which is what brings us all the way back to the relationship between mindfulness and focus. It's really about learning to control that muscle in your head so that you can choose to focus when you want, so that you'll no longer be subject to the whims of whatever is floating by. Ideally, and in time, you'll integrate these practices into your work so that even your work begins to feel this sense of pleasure and sensitization, but without a need to judge or feel anxious about it. And let's be honest, those are the circumstances where we feel we struggle with focus the most. Am I right?